What's up, YouTube? So before we get started with this video, on First Take, they're going to be talking about who's the better running back, Ezekiel Elliott or Saquon Barkley. So see what they have to say about that.
Is Zeke the best running back in football?
Yep, and it's not even close. And
you're right, it's not close, but you're right, the wrong guy.
It has a lot to do with what Ezekiel Elliott has meant to this football team. Missed 6 games, rushed for 1,000 yards. His percentages, he's almost accounting for 50% of what the Cowboys are doing offensively. We're talking about Dak Prescott possibly getting $35 million. Wouldn't even be having this conversation if 21 wasn't in the backfield. It wouldn't even be a conversation. We talked about this O-line and how great they've been. And yes, they are very good. They drafted that O-line. You know, one of the best centers in the NFL was out in Travis Frederick. Zeke still rushed for 1,400. Tyron Smith injured all season long. Zeke still rushed for 1,400. Every time that this guy has been in the game, the Dallas Cowboys have been 3 to 4 levels better of a football team. Now we're talking about, is he the best back? Yes, the numbers say he's the best back. Right now, Zeke is in his prime. Right now, Zeke means more to his football team at the running back position than any other running back in the NFL. So, yeah, he's the best back in the league.
Ezekiel Elliott.
So I definitely have to agree with Mr. Spears there. I definitely go with Ezekiel Elliott over Saquon Barkley. Now, I wouldn't necessarily say, I think it's relative on who's more valuable to their team, because obviously Ezekiel Elliott's more valuable to the Dallas Cowboys because they're knocking on about going to a Super Bowl. They're very close to getting to a Super Bowl because they're stacked. Now, at the same time, Saquon Barkley, he's very valuable to his team too because he's really the only weapon that they have since Odell Beckham Jr. left. So they're both valuable, but I would definitely go with Ezekiel Elliott over Saquon because this is going to be Ezekiel Elliott's 4th year. He's a well-proven running back that can consistently get you around 1,400 yards. Now, I know his 2nd year, he got just under 1,000, but that was just because he missed 6 games for various reasons. So Saquon Barkley, he's going to be coming up on his sophomore year here. We don't know how consistent he can stay. So he got 1,300 yards last year and 11 touchdowns, but we don't know if he can consistently do that. So I would definitely go with Ezekiel Elliott as rather than go with Saquon Barkley. But we'll check out their stats later on in this video. So let's continue.
It has become a little underrated. I'll agree with that. He's great. It is not close. Saquon Barkley is in a class by himself. It is ridiculous to compare other running backs to Saquon Barkley. They're not in his class. And by the way, Saquon Barkley is the greatest running back prospect who ever lived. And that's not close. Let me tell you.
Now, wait a minute. Max, do you know how many other running backs came before Saquon Barkley for you to say he's the biggest running back prospect? Let me throw out some running backs' names real quick here and see if he has any bigger prospect than these guys. So just real quick, is Barry Sanders, Walter Payton, Emmitt Smith, Marshall Faulk, Jerome Bettis, Terrell Davis, Eddie George, LaDainian Tomlinson, Marcus Allen, Jim Brown, Adrian Peterson. So you try to tell me after 1 year, Saquon Barkley has bigger prospects than all those guys? And there's more. There's a lot more. There's a lot. Did I say Jim Brown? There's a lot more. So for you to say that, Max, it's way too early for you to say that. Way, way too early for you to say that. So let's continue.
He's 233 pounds, but moves like Barry Sanders, and he can catch the ball. So let's compare him. Let's compare him to Ezekiel Elliott. He's bigger. He's stronger. He's faster. He's more slippery. He is, by all accounts, a better locker room guy. Not to knock Zeke there, but Saquon Barkley is like special, like a franchise quarterback. And he's better off the field for your franchise. That's just like the stuff I can claim I can find you stuff that can show that. He's a better home run hitter. He can score from anywhere on the field. He doesn't run between the tackles as well as Ezekiel Elliott. That's true. He hasn't even learned that yet. Saquon doesn't even know what he's doing yet, and he's already better than all these dudes. Do this thought experiment. Swap the offensive lines. Saquon is running behind not only arguably the worst offensive line in football, and Ezekiel Elliott arguably the best, and they're putting up similar numbers. Saquon as a rookie. But Saquon, when you get tackled in the backfield on a handoff, it's called a sack. I want to see running back sacks that Saquon has experienced. But then he's dealing with a quarterback who can't throw him a 5-yard pass but without him having to come back to the ball and the defense is on him. Whatever you want to say about Dak, he's a lot better than Eli at that stage. Any way you want to normalize the comparison and isolate just for their value, say, no knock against Zeke. This goes for Gurley. This goes for anyone you want to mention. There is Saquon Barkley, and there is the rest of football at the position.
You done lost your mind.
So you can't necessarily say that, Max, because he's not that far above and beyond everybody else. So Zeke was the leading rusher last year with 1,400 yards. Right behind him was Saquon Barkley. But let's throw out their stats. So here's Zeke's stats. So Zeke played in 15 games. He had 1,400 yards. He averaged 5.1 yards a run, and he had 6 touchdowns. So here's Saquon Barkley's stats last year. He played in 16 games. He rushed for 1,300 yards. He averaged 5 yards a run and had 11 touchdowns. So that's not far and above Ezekiel Elliott. And Ezekiel Elliott played in one less game than Saquon Barkley. So to say you're hyping it up like Saquon Barkley is just, he's rushing for 600 yards more than anybody else. And he's got 10 more touchdowns than anybody else. And he's averaging 8 yards a run. He's not that far off. And like I said, this is his first year. He's working on his sophomore year. So can he consistently do it? Because I know Ezekiel Elliott consistently do it. And I know Ezekiel Elliott, they did decent in the playoffs last year. So I've yet to see that from Saquon Barkley. I'm not hating on him. I think Saquon Barkley is going to be a beast, but we have to see it. 1 year is easy because nobody sees you coming. Let's see how you do when those defensive coordinators are waiting on you and have been plotting and scheming on you and taking you down for a whole year. Then it's a different type of animal trying to run the rock. And you're going to be the only weapon for the New York Giants? Oh, good luck to you. Good luck to you, friend, because you're going to need your speed and quickness once that box is stacked. So let's continue.
You have lost your damn mind. And I'm going to tell you why you've lost your mind. Because everything you saying about Saquon Barkley is the same thing everybody said about Ezekiel Elliott. The same exact thing. We can talk about the O-line. Look, if you want to say Saquon Barkley is a better athlete, has better attributes, all of that, fine. We talking about football players. And if you telling me that you going to say Saquon Barkley is head and shoulders better than Ezekiel Elliott after what you've seen him do, Max, you are out of your mind.
This is what I'm telling you. This is what I'm telling you. Ezekiel Elliott will be remembered as one of the great backs of his era, right? But look, so was Emmitt Smith. And Emmitt Smith was durable, and you could base an offense around him. He was predictable, like in terms of the returns you're going to get. And you couldn't do that with Barry Sanders, right? But who do you remember and how? Everyone knows you swap those O-lines, swap those teams. Barry Sanders is going to do something different. Now make Barry Sanders 233 pounds.
I just have to believe.
But see, I'm actually dealing with hypotheticals. If you put the Dallas Cowboys offensive line in the 90s for a lot of running backs, they probably would have done better. But that's just not the case. So we're not dealing with hypotheticals. What we're dealing with real life here. And the fact is, Barry Sanders didn't have Emmitt Smith's O-line. Would he have done better? Probably, most likely. I think he probably would have. But that's not what we're dealing with here. So same thing with Saquon Barkley. He doesn't have the offensive line that the Dallas Cowboys have, and it is what it is. So if he doesn't get a ring, then that's going to be a problem. Kind of like it's a problem with Barry Sanders. And unlike Emmitt Smith, who's got multiple rings, it's going to be the same thing with Ezekiel Elliott. They might be looking at the same type of situation. Ezekiel Elliott's knocking on getting a ring because last year, in the wild card, they beat Seattle. The next thing they went up and played the Rams and lost. Those guys are knocking on a Super Bowl. I can't say that for the New York Giants, especially the New York Giants right now. So, I don't know. Let's continue.
That you're enamored with the plays that you've seen Saquon Barkley make. Right? Because when we, you all of these things you bring out about Saquon Barkley behind the O-line and all of that, man,
look at the numbers. He's a rookie. He did that.
Ezekiel Elliott would do the same thing behind the New York Giants offense.
What? Come on.
Max, look at those stats. You like analytics. Look at those stats. They're not that far off. And Ezekiel played in one less game than Saquon Barkley. Their stats are not that far off at all. So let's continue.
Look at that line. So the line don't matter? It doesn't matter at all.
The line does matter. But what I'm telling you is we're talking about the guy. We're talking about the guy. First of all, Ezekiel Elliott was a track star in high school.
Yeah, he ran a 4.47. Saquon ran a 4.4.
That's fine.
It's a lot faster.
That's not what do you mean it's a lot faster?
When you're dealing in those margins of 4.4 versus a 4.47, it's a faster dude.
So I'll admit that is faster, but I think Ezekiel Elliott's a little bit more shiftier and is a little bit more, I don't want to say athletic, but I think he's a little bit more a smoother runner than Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley seems more of a power back. So I don't know, let's continue.
We've seen Ezekiel Elliott be a home run hitter.
Yeah, but not like Saquon.
I saw it begin in the Superdome against Alabama.
Of course, Zeke is fast. Zeke is the man. I get it.
Here's my point. One is I'm taking Ezekiel Elliott right now because he has the longer team, and he's proven to me over 3 seasons that he's consistently going to be who Ezekiel Elliott is. It's number one.
You want to bet against Saquon?
We ain't talking about off the field. We're talking about football players on the field. When they are in their uniform and you hand the ball off, there is no drop-off from Saquon Barkley to Ezekiel Elliott. None whatsoever.
If you put Saquon, but if you swap teams, the numbers wouldn't be close. The numbers are only close because Saquon is in a way worse situation, so it looks close.
What are you...
Look, Max, you can say the same. You can kind of switch those numbers around too. If Ezekiel Elliott was playing for the New York Giants, he might be getting the ball a little bit more than what he would be if he played for the Dallas Cowboys, because they have wide receivers, they have tight ends to throw to. So Ezekiel Elliott's numbers might be better if he was with the New York Giants because he'd be the primary ball handler. He'd be the only person getting the rock. Now, could you say that with Saquon Barkley? He'd have to share his time if he was able to play with the Dallas Cowboys. But then again, at the same time, I don't know, you can go back and forth with this. Saquon Barkley had his offensive line. He might be a little bit better. I think what it really boils down to for me is Ezekiel Elliott is a proven back. He's coming up on his 4th year. I could depend on him to do what he needs to do when he's on the field. Sure, he has problems off the field, but I could depend on him to do what he needs to do. Saquon Barkley, you don't know that because he's only played for 1 year. He had a good year, but let's see what happens when everybody sees you coming, is waiting for you. So let's continue.
You're predicating it on, though. What are you saying?
I made the argument. He's bigger, stronger, faster, catches better, does everything better, except run between the tackles because his tackles are no good and his guards are no good.
Zeke has a high broken tackle rate. Zeke has a home run hitting rate. Sure. Zeke catches the ball out of the backfield. Zeke makes people miss. He jumps over people.
He's a great running back.
All the things you saying about Saquon Barkley, he's done.
Wait, but this is what we're talking about. If you want to split hairs and be like, look, Max, at that level, is there really someone head and shoulders above the rest? Because really, he's not that much better, right? This is what I'm going to tell you. It is so hard to tell at that level that when you can, it's a big thing. Like Gurley or Zeke or Le'Veon or this or that. And what I'm saying is every once in a while, a dude comes along like Patrick Mahomes. Before him, Aaron Rodgers. Before him, like you look in basketball, Michael Jordan, LeBron James. These guys are a little different. What I'm saying is when you look at Saquon, it is obvious that he is a little different, and a little is a lot since you're dealing.
Where is it obvious? Where do you see that it's obvious that Saquon Barkley is so far above everybody else, especially Ezekiel Elliott? Where's stat lines? Where do you see that Saquon Barkley is just that much better than everybody else, especially off of 1 year? Where is that, Max?
With absurd levels of athletic ability.